Have you ever wondered what happens after the last cookie disappears from the jar? For most of us, it's just a sweet end to a snack. But for one unsuspecting woman, taking that final cookie led her into a world of luxury, secrets, and unimaginable twists. This isn't just a story about dessert, it's about destiny, deception, and the deliciously unexpected turns life can take. Dailymotion. Meet Emma, a young woman with big dreams but a modest life. One rainy afternoon, seeking comfort, she walked into a quaint bakery tucked away on a quiet street. The aroma of freshly baked goods enveloped her, and her eyes landed on the last chocolate chip cookie behind the glass counter. Without a second thought, she purchased it, savoring each bite. Little did she know, that seemingly innocent act would change her life forever. Later that day, Emma returned to the bakery, only to find it closed. Curious, she peered inside and noticed a figure through the window. The man inside was none other than the elusive billionaire owner, known for his reclusive nature and rumored to have a hand in several high-profile ventures. Their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment, something unspoken passed between them. As Emma delved deeper into the bakery's history, she uncovered tales of its founder, a woman who had built the establishment from the ground up, only to mysteriously disappear years ago. The more Emma learned, the more she realized that the bakery held secrets far darker than she could have imagined. But why had the billionaire owner chosen to remain hidden? What was his connection to the bakery's founder? And most intriguingly, what did Emma's simple act of taking the last cookie have to do with it all? Join us as we unravel a tale of ambition, mystery, and the unexpected paths that lead us to our destinies. In this story, nothing is as it seems, and every crumb leads to a revelation. Emma had always been a creature of habit. Her life was a series of predictable routines: wake up at 7 a.m., grab a coffee from the local cafe, work her 9-to-5 job at a nondescript office, and return home to her modest apartment in the city. But that rainy afternoon, when she stepped into the bakery and took the last chocolate chip cookie, something shifted. It was as if the universe had nudged her off her well-worn path and into the unknown. The next day, Emma returned to the bakery, hoping to find more of those delectable cookies. But the shop was closed. Peering through the fogged-up window, she noticed a figure inside, a man, tall and imposing, with an air of mystery about him. Their eyes met briefly, and in that fleeting moment, Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. Who was he? Why had he been watching her? And why did she feel an inexplicable pull toward him? Over the following days, Emma couldn't shake the image of the man from her mind. She found herself walking past the bakery more frequently, hoping to catch another glimpse of him. Each time, she was met with the same closed shutters and unanswered questions. Her curiosity grew, and with it, a sense of unease. One evening, as she sat in her apartment scrolling through social media, she stumbled upon a news article about a local billionaire who had recently purchased several properties in the area, including the very bakery she had visited. The article mentioned his reclusive nature and his preference for staying out of the public eye. Could this be the same man she had seen through the window? The thought sent a chill through her. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma began digging deeper. She learned that the bakery had once been owned by a woman named Clara, who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. Some said she had run off with a lover, others whispered that she had been involved in something far more sinister. The more Emma uncovered, the more questions arose. One afternoon, while researching at a local library, Emma overheard a conversation between two elderly women discussing Clara's disappearance. One of them mentioned a hidden compartment beneath the bakery's floorboards, rumored to contain secrets that could unravel everything. Her heart raced. Could this be the key to understanding the mysteries surrounding the bakery and its enigmatic owner? As Emma delved deeper into the bakery's history, she began to notice strange occurrences. Objects in her apartment would be moved slightly out of place, and she would catch glimpses of someone watching her from across the street. Was she being paranoid, or was someone truly keeping tabs on her? The line between reality and suspicion began to blur. Then, one evening, as she passed the bakery on her way home, she saw him again, the man from the window. This time, he was standing outside, waiting. Their eyes met, and he nodded slightly, as if acknowledging her presence. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What did he want? Why was he watching her? The next day, Emma received an unexpected invitation. A handwritten note slipped under her door, inviting her to meet at the bakery at midnight. The note was unsigned, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It was his. Her pulse quickened. Should she go? What could he possibly want with her? As the hour approached, Emma stood at the entrance of the bakery, her mind racing with possibilities. Could this be a trap? Or was this her chance to finally uncover the truth? With a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside, ready to face whatever awaited her. The bakery was dimly lit, the sweet scent of baked goods lingering in the air. At the far end, he stood waiting, tall, dark, and enigmatic. His presence filled the room, and for a moment, Emma hesitated. But then, he spoke. "You came," he said, his voice low and steady. "I knew you would." Emma's heart raced. How did he know? What was going on? And most importantly, what did he want from her? As she stepped further into the bakery, the door creaked shut behind her, sealing her fate. The mysteries of the last cookie, the missing bakery owner, and the billionaire's hidden agenda were about to collide in ways she never imagined. And Emma was about to discover that some secrets are better left uncovered. But as the door clicked shut, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into a much larger game, one where the stakes were higher than she could have ever anticipated. And in that moment, she realized that taking the last cookie was just the beginning. Emma had always considered herself a rational person. She believed in facts, in evidence, in the tangible world around her. But as she delved deeper into the mystery of the bakery and its enigmatic owner, she found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. The lines between reality and illusion began to blur, and she was no longer sure who to trust or what was truly happening. It started with the disappearance of the key piece of evidence she'd uncovered, a ledger hidden beneath the bakery's floorboards, detailing transactions and names she hadn't recognized. When she returned to retrieve it, the compartment was empty. No sign of forced entry, no indication that anyone had been there. It was as if the ledger had never existed. Had she imagined it? Or had someone gone to great lengths to erase it from existence? Determined to find answers, Emma reached out to a local historian, someone who had documented the bakery's past extensively. The historian agreed to meet her, but when Emma arrived at the agreed-upon location, the office was locked, and there was no sign of the historian. A note on the door read, "Gone on urgent business." Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that someone was always one step ahead of her. Then came the warning. One evening, as she sat in her apartment reviewing her notes, there was a knock at the door. Opening it, she found a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message typed in bold letters, "Stop digging. You're in over your head." No signature, no clue as to who had sent it. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Who knew what she was doing? And why did they want her to stop? Despite the mounting pressure, Emma pressed on. She discovered that the bakery had once been owned by a woman named Clara, who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. Some said she had run off with a lover, others whispered that she had been involved in something far more sinister. The more Emma uncovered, the more questions arose. But then, she encountered someone unexpected, a former employee of the bakery who claimed to have known Clara. The employee was hesitant to speak at first, but eventually confided in Emma, telling her that Clara had been involved in a secret project, something that had the potential to change everything. The employee warned Emma to be careful, to trust no one, and to stop her investigation before it was too late. Emma was left with more questions than answers. Who was Clara really? What was the secret project? And most importantly, who was behind the threats and attempts to derail her investigation? She realized that she had stumbled upon something much larger and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The Express Tribune. +5. India Today. +5. Dev Discourse. +5. As she sat in her apartment, trying to piece together the puzzle, there was another knock at the door. This time, when she opened it, there was no envelope, no message. Just a small, intricately carved box sitting on the doorstep. Emma's heart raced as she picked it up. Inside the box was a single, perfectly round chocolate chip cookie. The same kind she had taken from the bakery all those weeks ago. But this time, there was something different about it. It was warm to the touch, as if it had just been baked. And on the bottom, etched into the cookie itself, was a single word: welcome. Emma stood frozen, staring at the cookie. Had someone been watching her all along? Had they been waiting for her to reach this point? And what did this cryptic message mean? The mysteries of the bakery, its elusive owner, and the strange events surrounding her investigation had taken a new turn. Emma realized that she was no longer just an observer, she was a player in a game with rules she didn't understand and opponents she couldn't see. And as she stared at the cookie, she knew one thing for certain: she had to find out who was behind this and why. But as she reached for the phone to call her closest friend, someone she had trusted implicitly, the line went dead. The screen flickered, and then the call ended abruptly. Emma's heart sank. Had she been cut off? Or was this just another part of the elaborate web she had found herself entangled in? With the cookie still in her hand and her mind racing with questions, Emma knew that the answers she sought were within her grasp. But at what cost? And who could she trust when everyone seemed to have their own agenda? The game had changed. And Emma was about to discover just how deep the rabbit hole went. As Emma stood frozen in her apartment, the small, intricately carved box in her hands, the weight of the situation pressed down on her chest. The warm chocolate chip cookie inside seemed to pulse with an eerie energy, its surface gleaming under the dim light. The word welcome etched into its underside sent a chill through her spine. Who had left this? And why now? Her mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of information she'd uncovered so far. The missing ledger, the cryptic messages, the unsettling encounters, all of it pointed to something far more sinister than she had imagined. Masterclass. Writer and #039, S Digest. But just as she was about to reach for her phone to call her closest friend, seeking solace and advice, the line went dead. The screen flickered, and then the call ended abruptly. Emma's heart sank. Had she been cut off? Or was this just another part of the elaborate web she had found herself entangled in? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Startled, she set the box down and approached cautiously. Through the peephole, she saw no one. Only a small, plain envelope resting on the doorstep. Her pulse quickened as she opened it, revealing a single sheet of paper with a message typed in bold letters: "You're not the only one looking." No signature, no clue as to who had sent it. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Who else knew about her investigation? And what did they want? Determined to find answers, Emma decided to confront the bakery's billionaire owner. She had to know what he was hiding, what connection he had to Clara, and why he was watching her. But as she approached the bakery, she noticed something unusual. The shutters were down, the lights off, an uncommon sight for a business that prided itself on its 24/7 operation. She peered through a crack in the shutters and caught a glimpse of movement inside. A figure, tall and imposing, moving swiftly through the shadows. Her heart raced. Was it him? Or someone else? Before she could react, the figure disappeared into the back of the bakery, leaving her standing there, uncertain and alone. Later that evening, as Emma sat in her apartment, trying to make sense of the events, her phone buzzed. A message from her best friend, MIA, appeared on the screen. "I know what you're doing. Stop before it's too late." Emma's stomach churned. MIA had always been supportive, always there for her. Why was she suddenly warning her to stop? Had MIA been threatened? Or was she involved in this somehow? The uncertainty gnawed at Emma. The next day, Emma received a package at her door. Inside was a photograph of Clara, the bakery's original owner, standing in front of the bakery with a man Emma didn't recognize. The back of the photo was inscribed with a date and a cryptic message: "The past never stays buried." Emma's mind raced. Who was this man? And what did the message mean? The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the picture was still incomplete. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma decided to visit the local library to research the bakery's history. As she sifted through old newspapers and records, she stumbled upon an article dated several years ago, detailing a fire that had devastated a neighboring building. The article mentioned that the fire had been deliberately set, and that the bakery had narrowly escaped destruction. But what caught Emma's attention was the name of the building's owner, the same billionaire who now owned the bakery. Had he been involved in the fire? Was it connected to Clara's disappearance? The questions multiplied, each one leading to more uncertainty. As Emma left the library, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail from MIA. Her voice was shaky, filled with fear. "Emma," MIA whispered, "I know you're close to finding out the truth. But be careful. They're watching you. They're watching all of us." The line went dead. Emma stood frozen, the weight of Mia's words sinking in. Who was watching them? And why? Jerry Jenkins, proven writing tips. +1. Reedsy. +1. That night, as Emma sat alone in her apartment, she received another unexpected visitor. A man, tall and unshaven, appeared at her door. He introduced himself as Detective Harris, a private investigator hired to look into the bakery's operations. His demeanor was calm, professional, but there was an underlying tension in his voice. He claimed to have information that could help her, but only if she agreed to work with him. Emma hesitated. Was he truly an ally? Or was he another piece in the intricate puzzle she was trying to solve? As she pondered his offer, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. The bakery, the billionaire owner, Clara's disappearance, Mia's warning, all of it was interconnected in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. And now, with Detective Harris entering the picture, the stakes had been raised even higher. Who could she trust? And what was the truth hidden beneath layers of deception and fear? The answers seemed just out of reach, until the days following the mysterious delivery of the chocolate chip cookie felt like a slow descent into a waking nightmare for Emma. She had hoped that the unsettling events would cease, that the cryptic messages and shadowy figures would fade into the background of her life. But instead, they intensified, weaving a web of fear and uncertainty that she couldn't escape. The New Yorker. One evening, as she sat at her kitchen table, reviewing her notes and trying to make sense of the chaos, her phone buzzed. A message from MIA. "They're watching you. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." Emma's heart raced. MIA had always been her rock, her confidant. For her to send such a message was a clear sign that something was terribly wrong. Frantically, Emma tried to call MIA, but the line went straight to voicemail. She sent a text, then another, each more desperate than the last. No response. Panic set in. She had to find MIA, had to make sure she was safe. She grabbed her coat and rushed out the door, her mind racing with possibilities. What had MIA meant by "they're watching you"? Who was they? And why had MIA been so cryptic? The questions swirled in her mind, each one more terrifying than the last. As she made her way to Mia's apartment, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. Every time she glanced over her shoulder, she thought she saw a figure lurking in the shadows, just out of sight. Her breath quickened, her steps faltered. Was she imagining things? Or was someone truly tailing her? When she arrived at Mia's building, she rushed up the stairs to her friend's apartment. The door was ajar. Emma pushed it open, calling out Mia's name. No answer. She stepped inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The apartment was eerily quiet, the air thick with tension. She searched every room, but MIA was nowhere to be found. Her belongings were gone, as if she had vanished into thin air. On the kitchen counter, Emma found a note, hastily scribbled, "I'm sorry. I had to go. They're coming for me. Don't trust anyone." The words sent a chill down her spine. Who was they? And why had MIA left without a trace? Emma's mind raced. Had MIA been involved in something dangerous? Had she uncovered something that made her a target? And if so, was Emma now in danger too? The questions piled up, each one more pressing than the last. As she stood in the middle of Mia's empty apartment, Emma realized that she was no longer just investigating a mystery. She was entangled in it, a pawn in a game she didn't understand. And the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. The sense of paranoia that had been creeping into her life now consumed her. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every unfamiliar face in the crowd felt like a potential enemy. She couldn't trust anyone, not even herself. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and Emma found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. Determined to find answers, Emma returned to the bakery, hoping to confront the billionaire owner and demand the truth. But when she arrived, the place was deserted. The lights were off, the doors locked. She peered through the windows, but saw nothing. It was as if the bakery had never existed. Frustrated and frightened, Emma decided to visit the local police station to report Mia's disappearance. But when she arrived, the officers acted strangely. They were polite, but distant, as if they were hiding something. When she mentioned Mia's name, their expressions changed, becoming guarded. It was subtle, but unmistakable. They knew more than they were letting on. Emma left the station with more questions than answers. Who could she trust? Was Mia's disappearance connected to the bakery and its mysterious owner? And if so, what did it all mean? Masterclass. +2. Reedsy. +2. Reedsy. +2. As she walked through the darkened streets, Emma felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. She was alone, isolated, and surrounded by shadows. The sense of danger was palpable, and she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her every move. The mystery had deepened, and Emma found herself at the center of it, a reluctant detective in a story that was far darker and more complex than she had ever imagined. And as the night closed in around her, she realized that the answers she sought might be more terrifying than the questions themselves. Emma had always prided herself on her ability to read people, to sense when something was amiss. But as she sat in her dimly lit apartment, staring at the cryptic message MIA had left behind, she realized just how wrong she'd been. The words "I'm sorry. I had to go. They're coming for me. Don't trust anyone" echoed in her mind, each repetition deepening the pit in her stomach. She had trusted MIA implicitly, confided in her about everything: the bakery's billionaire owner, the mysterious cookie, the unsettling events that had unfolded. MIA had been her anchor, her sounding board. But now, with MIA gone and her last message a haunting warning, Emma was left to grapple with the terrifying possibility that everything she thought she knew was a lie. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma revisited the bakery, hoping to find some clue that would explain Mia's disappearance. But when she arrived, she was met with an unexpected sight. The bakery's owner, the enigmatic billionaire who had been at the center of it all, stood outside, speaking to a group of reporters. His usual air of mystery was gone, replaced by a calm, composed demeanor. He was no longer the elusive figure she had once sought to understand. He was now a public figure, answering questions about the bakery's future and the recent events that had brought it into the spotlight. As Emma watched from the shadows, a sense of unease washed over her. Had he been orchestrating everything from the beginning? Had Mia's disappearance been part of a larger plan, a move in a game Emma hadn't even known she was playing? The questions swirled in her mind, each one more unsettling than the last. Later that evening, as Emma sifted through her notes, trying to make sense of the chaos, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you're the only one looking? Think again." The words sent a chill down her spine. Who else was involved in this? And why had they singled her out? The more Emma delved into the mystery, the more questions arose. Each answer seemed to lead to another layer of deception, another hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. She had thought she was uncovering a simple conspiracy, but now she realized she was entangled in something far more complex, something that reached further than she could have ever imagined. As the days passed, Emma found herself questioning everyone around her. The bakery's owner, once a suspect, now seemed like a pawn in a larger game. MIA, her closest friend, had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a cryptic message and a trail of unanswered questions. Even the seemingly innocuous cookie had become a symbol of the mystery, its simple sweetness now a reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the surface. In the end, Emma realized that the true mystery wasn't the bakery, the billionaire owner, or even Mia's disappearance. The true mystery was herself. She had been so focused on uncovering the secrets of others that she had failed to see the secrets within her own life, the hidden truths she had been blind to. And now, as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, she understood that the answers she sought might be more terrifying than the questions themselves. With a heavy heart, Emma closed her notebook, the weight of the mystery pressing down on her. She had uncovered the surface, but the depths remained hidden, just out of reach. And as she sat in the silence of her apartment, She couldn't shake the feeling that the true story was only just beginning as Emma delved deeper into the enigma surrounding Mia's disappearance and the cryptic messages. She found herself ensnared in a labyrinth of deceit and danger that seemed to tighten with every step she took. The bakery, once a quaint establishment, now stood as a monument to the unknown, its billionaire owner a shadowy figure whose motives were as elusive as the truth Emma sought. Her every move felt monitored, her every conversation potentially overheard, and the line between ally and adversary blurred beyond recognition. One evening, as Emma sat in her apartment, piecing together the fragments of information she had gathered, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number: "Stop digging. You're in over your head." The words sent a chill down her spine. Who was watching her? And why did they want her to stop? Determined to uncover the truth, Emma reached out to her trusted friend, Sarah, hoping to find some clarity. They met at a local cafe, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken tension. As they sat across from each other, Emma noticed a flicker of hesitation in Sarah's eyes, a subtle shift in her demeanor that hadn't been there before. When Emma mentioned Mia's disappearance, Sarah's face paled, and she quickly changed the subject. Emma's heart sank. Had Sarah known more than she had let on? Had she been involved in Mia's vanishing? Later that night, as Emma reviewed her notes, a realization struck her. A pattern had emerged, one she had overlooked in her pursuit of the truth. Every lead she had followed, every clue she had uncovered, had somehow circled back to Sarah. The cafe where they had met was owned by Sarah's cousin. The phone number that had sent the threatening message was registered under a name that matched Sarah's mother's maiden name. The connections were undeniable. Confronting Sarah was no longer a matter of choice, it was a necessity. Emma arranged to meet her at the same cafe, her mind racing with questions and suspicions. As Sarah sat down, Emma wasted no time. "I know you're involved," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Sarah's eyes widened in shock, but there was no denial, no attempt to explain. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small, ornate box, placing it on the table between them. "I never wanted you to find out this way," Sarah whispered. Opening the box, Emma found a single chocolate chip cookie, identical to the one she had received weeks earlier. But this one was different, it was sealed in wax, the emblem of a crescent moon stamped into the surface. "It's a symbol," Sarah explained, her voice trembling. "A symbol of our family's involvement in something ancient." The revelation was staggering. Emma had stumbled upon a secret society, one that had operated in the shadows for generations, manipulating events from behind the scenes. Her own family had been part of it, their hands stained with actions she could scarcely comprehend. And now, she was entangled in their web, a pawn in a game she hadn't known existed. Sarah's confession was just the beginning. As Emma delved deeper into the mystery, she uncovered more unsettling truths. Mia had been a member of the society, her disappearance orchestrated to protect the family's secrets. The billionaire bakery owner was not just a businessman, he was a key figure in the society, his establishment serving as a front for their operations. And Emma? She was more than just a bystander, she was a descendant of the society's founders, her bloodline carrying the weight of their legacy. The choices before Emma were impossible. She could expose the society, risking her life and the safety of those she loved. She could join them, embracing a dark heritage she had never known. Or she could walk away, severing ties with her past but leaving the mystery unsolved. Each path led to its own set of dangers, its own moral compromises. And as the walls closed in around her, Emma realized that the truth was not a beacon of clarity, it was a labyrinth, and she was lost within it. The stakes had never been higher. Emma's quest for answers had led her into a world of shadows and secrets, where every revelation brought more questions, and every choice carried profound consequences. The line between right and wrong had blurred, and Emma was left to navigate a path fraught with peril and uncertainty. In the end, the greatest mystery was not the one she had set out to solve, it was the one within herself. The moment Emma stepped into the dimly lit room, she felt the weight of everything she had uncovered, every twist, every clue, every hidden truth, crashing down on her all at once. The truth she thought she was inching closer to had become an overwhelming tidal wave, and she was standing on the edge, powerless to stop it. The bakery, the billionaire owner, Mia's disappearance, even Sarah's cryptic warnings, it was all part of something far larger, far darker than she'd ever imagined. She could feel it now, the pulse of a conspiracy that stretched far beyond her small circle of friends. There were people, powerful people, whose names were unknown to her, and whose reach was endless. And she was now tangled in their web. As Emma sat down across from Sarah, her heart raced, her thoughts running 1,000 miles an hour. "You were always a part of it, weren't you?" Emma's voice was a whisper, more to herself than to Sarah, but Sarah's eyes widened, guilt flashing across her face. The confession Emma had feared for so long finally felt inevitable. Sarah didn't speak for a long moment, and Emma could feel the tension thickening, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Finally, Sarah broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't get it, Emma. It's not just us, it's everything. It's everyone." She paused, her eyes searching Emma's face for some sign of understanding. "Your family, your bloodline. It's all connected." Emma blinked in disbelief, her mind reeling as Sarah's words shattered everything she thought she knew. "What do you mean, my family?" The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. Emma had never known her family to be involved in anything more than the everyday chaos of life. But now, as Sarah spoke of bloodlines and secret societies, the truth dawned on her in an instant. Her family, too, had been part of this far-reaching conspiracy from the beginning. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, Sarah's expression changed. The guilt, the hesitation, everything Emma had sensed in her friend now turned to cold resolve. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but it's too late. You're already in it," Sarah said, her eyes narrowing. "You should have stayed out of it, Emma. You should have listened." The words hit Emma like a punch to the gut. She was staring at someone she had trusted, someone she had confided in, and now she realized Sarah wasn't just an innocent bystander. She was a player in this game, and she had known about it all along. But it wasn't just betrayal, it was a deeper, more sinister kind of deception. Sarah wasn't just hiding things from her, she was actively working against her, using their friendship to keep Emma in the dark long enough to pull her into something she could never escape. "Why, Sarah?" Emma's voice cracked as she fought to keep her emotions in check. "Why all of this? Why did you have to involve me?" Sarah sighed, her eyes softening for just a brief moment before hardening again. "Because, Emma, you're more important than you think. They've been watching you, always have. It was never just about MIA. It was about you. You were the missing piece." And that's when Emma understood. This wasn't just about a bakery or some billionaire with a hidden agenda. This was about control, about power, about manipulating the one person who could potentially expose everything. Before Emma could react, the door swung open behind her. A tall figure stepped inside, his shadow cutting across the room like a dark omen. It was him, the bakery owner, the man who had been the catalyst for everything, the one who had always seemed like an untouchable force in the background. But now, standing before her, he was just another piece of the puzzle, another pawn in a game that she hadn't even realized she was playing. "Emma," the man said in a voice that sent a chill down her spine. "I'm sorry it had to come to this. But you don't understand the gravity of what's happening. You were never meant to find out. Not like this." Emma stood up quickly, her heart pounding in her chest. "What do you want from me? Why are you doing this?" The billionaire smiled coldly, stepping closer. "What do I want? What do any of us want? Power. Control. We've built this empire from the shadows, and it's too late for you to stop it now." His words were a gut punch, and Emma felt her knees weaken, her breath coming faster, the room spinning. Everything, the bakery, the billionaire, the disappearances, the twisted games, had been a carefully constructed facade, a chessboard where she had unknowingly been the queen, the key piece. Sarah stepped back, her expression unreadable, her face a mask of resignation. "You don't have a choice now, Emma. It's too deep. Too many people are involved. You've seen too much. The best thing you can do now is walk away." But Emma didn't want to walk away. She couldn't. Not now. Not after everything. She had come this far, and there was no turning back. She couldn't just let the truth slip away like it had never mattered. "No," Emma said, her voice steady, even though her insides were churning with fear and rage. "I'm not walking away. Not until I have answers. The billionaire's smile faltered for just a moment, before he straightened, his eyes narrowing. Then you'll learn what the cost of knowledge really is. And just like that, Emma realized the true scale of what she was up against. This was no longer just about a missing friend or a hidden bakery. This was about a conspiracy so vast, so deeply entrenched, that it spanned across families, corporations, and entire systems of power. Every step Emma had taken, every piece of the puzzle she had uncovered, was leading her toward something even darker than she could have ever imagined. But there was no turning back now. She was in it, whether she liked it or not. And the only choice left was to fight. Emma's heart raced as she stepped into the darkened alleyway behind the bakery, the final clue she'd uncovered pushing her forward. The moon hung high above, barely illuminating the desolate street, and every shadow seemed to breathe with an eerie life of its own. She'd followed the trail to this moment, piecing together the fragments of the conspiracy, but now it all felt suffocating, like she was walking into a trap she couldn't escape. The bakery, the billionaire, Sarah, the secret society, all of it had led her here, and there was no turning back. She had to confront the truth, no matter the cost. As she moved deeper into the alley, her footsteps echoing off the brick walls, she felt the weight of eyes watching her. She wasn't alone. She hadn't been for a long time. The message from Sarah had been clear enough: you're in too deep. Don't try to fight it. But Emma wasn't going to let this mystery consume her. She wasn't going to be just another pawn in this twisted game. Turning the corner, she saw him. The billionaire. His cold eyes met hers in the dark, his expression unreadable as he leaned casually against the brick wall of the building, his arms crossed, as if he'd been expecting her all along. You should have stayed away, Emma, he said, his voice smooth, almost too calm. It sent a shiver down her spine. But now that you're here, I suppose there's no point in pretending anymore. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she stepped closer. You knew everything, didn't you? From the beginning. You had MIA taken. You orchestrated it all, and you let me dig deeper, lead myself into this mess. The billionaire chuckled darkly, a bitter laugh that held no humor. You think this is just about MIA? You're still so naive. MIA was the bait. The real goal has always been you, Emma. You're part of something far bigger, something that's been in motion long before you ever stepped foot in this bakery. This conspiracy, it's generations deep. Your family, my family, we are the ones who control everything. His words hit her like a slap. Everything she thought she knew, all the work she had done to uncover the truth, all the late-night hours spent piecing together the puzzle, suddenly felt irrelevant. She had been a pawn, a means to an end. You don't get it, Emma, he continued, his voice growing colder, more dangerous. Your bloodline was always meant to be a part of this. Your family, your father, was one of the founding members of the society. Everything you've been through, everything you've experienced, it's all been carefully calculated, a plan set in motion long before you were born. Emma's knees nearly buckled beneath her. Her father, the man who had always been her rock, the one she thought was innocent, had been part of this sick game all along. No, she whispered, her voice shaky. That's not possible. Oh, but it is, the billionaire said, stepping forward. And now, you're at the heart of it. You think this is over? That you can just walk away? You're too important to let go now. Your family made sure of that. And you, Emma, you're the key to unlocking everything. The realization hit her with an overwhelming force, a tidal wave of panic and dread. She had never understood the true power of the game she'd stumbled into. This wasn't about MIA. It wasn't even about the bakery. This was about control. Power. And Emma had been born into it. Her family had been orchestrating the entire thing from the shadows, and she was now a crucial piece of the puzzle, a piece that couldn't be allowed to escape. Then why not kill me already? Emma demanded, though her voice quivered despite her defiance. She couldn't just accept this. She couldn't. The billionaire's lips curled into a twisted smile. Oh, we've been watching you, Emma. You're not ready to die yet. Not until you've fulfilled your role. You think you've figured it out, but you've only scratched the surface. Your role is much bigger than you realize. Suddenly, the alley seemed to close in on her. A noise behind her made her turn, but it was too late. Figures emerged from the shadows, surrounding her. Sarah stepped into view, her face as cold as the night air. "I told you to stop. I warned you. But you didn't listen. Now, you're going to have to make a choice." Emma's mind raced. She couldn't run. She couldn't fight them all. But there was one thing left, one last piece of the puzzle she hadn't figured out. The cookie. The chocolate chip cookie that had started it all. She reached into her pocket, her fingers trembling, and pulled out the last one, the sealed one, the one with the wax emblem. The billionaire's eyes locked onto it, and for the briefest moment, something flickered in his gaze, something he didn't expect. "Where did you get that?" he hissed, stepping forward. "It doesn't matter," Emma said, holding the cookie tightly. "You never counted on me getting this far. You underestimated me." Her hands shook as she peeled back the wax seal, revealing the emblem etched in dark chocolate. There, hidden beneath the surface of the cookie, was a small, folded piece of paper. She quickly opened it, her eyes scanning the handwritten note. "She who holds the key will reveal the truth. Trust no one, not even those closest to you. The past is alive." The words burned into her brain, but before she could process them, the alley exploded into chaos. One of the figures lunged at her, but Emma was faster. She darted sideways, dodging the attack and running toward the street, heart pounding. She didn't know what the note meant. She didn't know what had just happened. But the cookie, that was the key. As Emma reached the end of the alley, she looked back one last time. The figures were closing in, but so was the truth. She could hear the billionaire shouting behind her, but she was no longer listening. She had a new goal now, to survive long enough to piece it all together. She had no idea what was waiting for her next. All she knew was that the game was far from over, and she was no longer playing by their rules. One last twist awaited her, but it was too late for the conspirators. Emma had already unlocked the door to the truth. The rest was just a matter of time. Weeks had passed since the night in the alley, and Emma's life had taken on a new rhythm. She had moved to a quieter part of the city, far away from the bakery and the dark conspiracy that had consumed her every waking moment. The cookies, the messages, the secrets, everything had been a part of the web that had drawn her in, but now, as she sat on the balcony of her new apartment, the sun dipping below the horizon, she finally felt like she could breathe. The weight on her chest had lifted, but it wasn't gone entirely. The truth had been revealed, yes, but the scars were still fresh. The pieces of the puzzle had come together, and yet, the final image was still hauntingly incomplete. There were answers, but there were also questions that would forever remain unanswered. After that night, Emma had been careful, taking nothing for granted. She knew that the bakery's billionaire owner, along with his network, was never far from her thoughts. They hadn't stopped watching. They hadn't stopped pulling the strings, but Emma had learned how to hide in the shadows, to disappear when necessary. The final piece of the puzzle, the cookie, the emblem, the cryptic message, had led her to the deepest corners of her family's history. What she discovered there was beyond comprehension: generations of power, manipulation, and a hidden agenda that stretched across the world like a tangled web. Her father, the man she had loved and trusted, had been the architect of it all, a pivotal figure in the society that controlled everything, including the bakery that had played such a central role in her life. But when she confronted him with the truth, the shock in his eyes was real. He hadn't known she was the key. He hadn't known that she would be the one to uncover the layers of darkness buried deep within their lineage. But there was no going back. There was no excusing his actions, his betrayal. Emma had severed ties with him, with her past, and now, she had to rebuild. But the hardest part wasn't leaving the past behind, it was accepting that nothing she had known was ever truly hers. Emma had always been told that she was meant for greatness, that her family's bloodline would lead her to something monumental, but she had never wanted it. She had never asked for it. The cookie, the emblem, the bakery, it was all part of a plan she had never chosen. And yet, as she stood in her new life, far away from the chaos, she couldn't ignore the truth of what had happened. She wasn't the only one who had been used, who had been caught in the middle of something far too big to understand. MIA, her friend who had gone missing, was still out there somewhere, her fate unknown. The bakery's employees, the loyalists, the people who had helped build the empire, they were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The billionaire owner, too, was still playing the game, manipulating the players from afar. The conspiracy might have been revealed, but it was far from over. Emma knew that, even as she walked away from the past, it would always follow her. She would always be a part of it, whether she liked it or not. And yet, in the quiet moments, when she sat in her new apartment, watching the world move on around her, Emma found solace in something she hadn't known she needed. It wasn't peace, exactly, but it was freedom. The freedom to choose. The freedom to carve out a life that was her own, free from the influence of the past. She didn't know what her future held, or if she would ever fully escape the shadows of her family's legacy, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was finally in control of her own destiny. But as Emma took one last look out at the city skyline, the wind carrying away the last remnants of the night's storm, she couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered in the darkness. Something that had been left unsaid. Something that had slipped through the cracks of the conspiracy and remained hidden. She felt it deep in her bones, the truth was still out there, and the pieces of the puzzle were still waiting to be put together. The final twist, the one she hadn't seen coming, was still waiting. Was it really over? Could she ever truly be free from the past, from the games they had played, from the secrets that had been buried? As she closed the door to her apartment behind her, Emma knew that, for now, she had won. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. The shadows were still there, just beyond the reach of the light, and they weren't finished with her. Not yet. The game was always shifting, always evolving. And somewhere out there, someone was still watching, waiting. Maybe it was time to start watching back. The final twist, the one Emma hadn't expected, came when she sat at her desk later that night, reviewing the old documents she had taken from her family's archives. One of the pages, an innocuous letter from decades ago, caught her eye. It was written in a code she didn't recognize at first. But as she studied it, something clicked. The symbols, it was the same emblem she had seen on the cookie. The same one that had started it all. The realization hit her like a freight train. The conspiracy wasn't just about her family. It was about something bigger. Something far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. The final piece of the puzzle was there, hidden in plain sight, and Emma knew then that this was only the beginning. As she stood up, the weight of what she had just uncovered settled on her shoulders. The darkness was still out there. But now, Emma was ready to face it head-on. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun.